Time now for the voice of the land on the Big Play Network with your hosts, Kevin Arnold and Always Positive Jay.
Well, it's not
And we're live.
myself and Always Positive Jay. It's myself and Ryan Mosser, as Jay is, well, I guess he's on assignment. That's what we're just going to call it right now.
Yeah.
As I'm going to make myself full screen just so I can see myself better here. Gosh, this new computer is really just a whole mess of things. But this is the Voice of the Land, brought to you by Greeny Sports Cards. Make sure to check them out, greenysportscards.com. We are part of the Big Play Network and partner with LPV Productions. We will talk to Chris Rose from NFL Network and John Boy Media coming up here in just a little bit at 8:15. A shorter show tonight will be done by 8:45 instead of 9 o'clock. We'll get all of our live reads and all of that stuff in. But Ryan, boy, oh boy, did we get a stunner last night as the Guardians trade Andres Gimenez, the platinum Gold Glove winner. I think people forgot he's a platinum Gold Glove winner. Everybody was saying 3-time Gold Glove winner. Oh, guess what? You should announce him as a platinum Gold Glove winner. And now he is traded to Toronto. The first baseman, second baseman, Spencer Horwitz that they got in the deal. They got a minor league outfielder as well, but Horwitz was then turned around for 3 pitchers from the Pirates organization. The main name that everybody is talking about is Luis Ortiz, that has all the stuff that you want, apparently, to be a starting pitcher. But he needs a little work and a little command, and the Guardians organization is probably the perfect one for that.
For sure.
I have thoughts on this. I'm going to get them out before Chris Rose comes on because I've seen Chris Rose at Chris Rose on Twitter, on X, give his thoughts on this twice now after the second trade last night. And I probably disagree, so I'm going to let Chris kind of bring me back down to earth a little bit more than I already am after last night. But Ryan, when you saw this, what went through your mind?
At first, I was shocked. I mean, Andres is a fan favorite. Not only is he a platinum, Gold Glove winner, but he's an incredible defender. He makes it fun. Him and Rocchio, it looked like they were like Mario and Luigi out there. It was something really fun to watch. So I was shocked at first. Looking at it now, I actually I can see what they were doing, especially if they want to create a path for their first overall pick, Travis Manzana. Now there is one. I don't expect him to play this next year. We'll see. So I'm unsure who's going to play that position. But in the thick of things, our pitching depth was really, really poor last year. I mean, we had Carlos Carrasco pitching at one point. So we got a young guy who is very promising. And like you said, with in the Guardians organization, what better organization to try to rein all those skills in and actually make a stud? They've done it time and time again. So I'm excited to see what they do once they get their hands on them.
So I was in shock last night. Yeah. My wife cried. I was close to tears because Andres has kind of become, a fan favorite here. I know what everybody is going to say and what everybody has said already and why they're explaining this trade. Like, oh, his bat has diminished over the last 2 seasons. And yeah, he's great at defense, but you need more offense. Well, the way that I look at this, you win championships by your defense. The Yankees' defense failed them in the World Series. What failed us in the first 2 games of the ALCS when that could have been more of a series against the Yankees? That was our defense. I'm not saying it wasn't Andres. Andres was the one making the plays when they needed to be made. Defense matters in this league. And yes, offense does as well. I totally get that. But you just signed him to the 7-year, $106 million extension. If this was your thought process, I probably would have given him 1 more year because going into 2025, he's making $10 million. 2026, he's making $15 million. It is 2027 where that is where it goes with the $20 million mark. I understand all the logistics. Everybody has told me you need to just accept it because this is all you've known your whole life. Like, this is how the Guardians operate, and they're still in contention. Being in contention is not enough.
Right.
This team is really good at getting a lot out of a little. and surprising people in seasons. You know what they're not good at? Taking the next step. And getting rid of Andres, I hope that you're reinvesting that money, but I'm going to tell you guys, you're all in next Stephen Kwan and Tanner Bybee. Those are where the extensions are going to come from. Well, they're already on this team. You made it to the ALCS when everybody thought you were going to win 70 games at best. What are we need to add to this team? And this coming after they decided to move FanFest to every 3 years instead of every year.
That's shameful, by the way. That's
not a good move, but I understand. This penny pinching, this money saving, it better lead to something. I'm not here to just like destroy the offseason and say it's all over. Like, we're only in December. We don't even report until mid-February. That's 3 months away. We're only approaching mid-December.
right.
So if you're out there thinking this guy has no idea, he doesn't know baseball, you better go talk to my grandfather, because I know baseball.
Kevin is,
and I know how this works. So I can be realistic, but I can trust Chris Antonetti and Mike Chernoff, but I don't trust that they're going to be given the resources to do what they want to do in the market that they are in. There is still a way to add to this team, make it better, Ryan, in the type of market that we're in. I'm not asking them to go out and spend what the Mets did on Juan Soto or even anything half of that. We know that that's not possible. But I've seen this too many times where we get rid of guys because we are, we're trying to save money and things like that. And everybody can say it's going to go to an extension to Kwan and Bybee, but I have to see that to believe it. I have to see that they're going to reinvest that money. Because every time they go out and spend on a free agent, they spend some money on an Edwin Encarnacion, on Michael Bourne and Nick Swisher. It's several years before they recover from the shock and awe that it didn't work. Pinpoint the right people. You have the people in place to do that. Don't just throw money at someone because you think it's going to add what your fans are looking for. Allow the baseball people to do baseball things. This team has a much higher standard than the team that plays on the lakefront right now. That ownership at least throws things into the lake to try. They push some chips in the middle of the table. Does it always work? Well, never really works.
No.
But they are trying. Dan Gilbert uses his money, allows the people that know basketball to do those things. The only issue with the Guardians is, yes, they're always in contention. Yes, they're always at that precipice of winning. Capitalize on a window that is just starting to open. You don't have to go chips all in, Ryan. You don't have to go chips all in just yet. But you need to improve, not get rid of, because there's already rumors about Josh Naylor and Lane Thomas. Well, then who the heck are you bringing in? Because now you've lost 3 big pieces off a team that was together. Last thing I'll say, Ryan, because I know that there's a lot you want to respond to. I'm sorry. I had to get this off my chest because it's 24 hours. I've seen Tanner Bybee give an emoji reaction, and I don't really see the Guardians players like tweet and like on social media all the time, unless it's family stuff, that kind of stuff. And it's great that Shane Bieber is back and we'll get him halfway through the year. And he loves Cleveland. I had a chance at work today to, I got to cut the sound that he was when he met with the media. And that's a guy that he gets us. And we love those types of guys. Like, he loves Cleveland. Great. We need more people like that. But Tanner Bybee putting an emoji out there after, Alex Cobb signed somewhere else. Matthew Boyd, who helped this team, signed somewhere else. Then last night, I see Stephen Kwan in his story on Instagram put an emoji, a sad face. Let's not forget, Ryan, a year and a half ago, this front office had to go to Houston to mend fences with the players who were stunned by the trades that they made and did not make trades in the sense of contending that year. In 2023, Terry Francona's last year here as manager. I'm not saying that the relationship is fractured, but you are causing issues that put into question players trusting, if I sign an extension, you're going to send me out if I have a bad year? Like, those questions now start to arise, and trust and belief in the front office and the organization boy, oh boy, that you're teetering on issues there, because we were all, I think even players, we were all stunned by this yesterday.
Right. Yeah, no, like I said, I logically I can see where they're going with it,
Right.
especially with the path. Yes, I'm here. Are you here? Peter, is it me or Kevin?
Yeah, I'm here.
It might be you, Ryan. I can hear Kevin.
What?
I can hear both of you.
Apologies for the technical difficulties we are having here on the Voice of the Land.
I should be back.
Well,
There he is.
Ryan's figuring
Sorry
out.
about that.
Yep. Are you back?
Should be back. Yep. Hi.
Okay. So all of that I just said,
Yeah.
how do you come out on that?
Yeah. I mean, logically, I can see why they did it. They want to save money. It's a big contract. And I think when they signed him, they were expecting him to be that dual player, the guy who is not only the Gold Glove but also has that stick that he had 2-3 years ago. And the fact that they drafted a player in his position first overall, like there was gonna be a path. Do I like it as a fan? No, I'm upset just as a fan. I like keeping the core together, and I think he was a great piece. And I think that, like you said, he probably could have got his hitting back together. I would have given it another year. I don't know who's going to play the position next year. I don't think Banzano's going to be ready. But another thing we're talking about with the money, didn't we just have a new investor like a year or two ago? Was it David Blitzer is his name, I think? He was supposed to take over the team in 5 years as his plan. Where's that money? Like this guy's supposed to come in and start paying some players. At least that was the promise, and now there's nothing. That's it's not only confusing but a little insulting, especially when you're giving away players who are not giving, but trading away players who are fan favorites. That's a tough pill to swallow. That it's the same thing. Yeah, like you said, they continuously, are returning guys over and flipping guys over into putting quality players on the field, but nonetheless, they're not taking that next step, and it's frustrating. I agree with you.
It's frustrating, and see, here's the other thing. Like, again, if you're thinking about making this move, why not? Like, maybe there's more talk about it going through 2025 into 2026, when there's 15 million going to be paid out, and you're getting closer to that over 20 million. Like, I understand all of those financial logistics and all of that. And now we're hearing the name Juan Brito, who is, and Andre Knott, who knows the team better than anybody, said today on radio that he's ready. Like, he's done everything he can in the minors. That's a lot of pressure on a young kid that hasn't been up here to the majors yet. Right. That's a lot of pressure that he's filling Andres Gimenez's shoes. And I've heard mixed reports on where his defense is, but all he can do is play second or third base. And he's not playing third right now.
No.
So he can only play in the infield. He hasn't been one of those infielders that's gotten that cross training out in the outfield, as we've seen, to get some of those bats up here. It's a different animal. Like, the biggest jump you're going to make in your baseball career is AAA to the big leagues. Now, the good news is that he's not just coming up in after the season has started, a month or a month and a half in or something like that. He's going to have all of spring training, if that's the guy that they pinpoint to be their second baseman. I mean, you got to talk about the rapport that Rocchio and Jimenez built in that middle part of the infield. You were starting to get shades of Alomar and Vizquel. We can all say that this is what this baseball team does, and it's led to success. Well, it hasn't led to a championship. And at some point, that has to be the standard to break that 75+ year drought of winning a World Series. We're getting to the base of the mountain, halfway up the mountain, but never all the way to the top. Yeah. The closest we got was 2016, and that was that was because Terry Francona had been there, done that, and was masterful in how he managed. But then what happened in Game 7? The pitchers you relied upon the whole time got overused and burned out because you didn't have that extra depth, that extra person you could go to save a Corey Kluber, maybe bring him in for a couple innings from the bullpen instead of having to have him start 3 of those 7 games in the World Series.
Right.
I mean, again, I'm only doing this because I care. People that are frustrated, I'm sick of people saying that this frustration, Ryan, is all like we're pushing our Browns frustration onto them. I've been apathetic to the Browns for a long time. If you're numb to that, like, you're not going to care. If people didn't care, we wouldn't be saying this type of stuff. So please get that argument out of here. I know that I say everybody's open to their opinions, and I respect all of them. I understand them. I understand where people are coming from with that, but that is absolutely ridiculous. I'm sure there are some people doing that, but that's because they don't actually watch the baseball team and they just want to vent and yell. That's all
I think
really is.
Chris is here, by the way.
Yeah, we'll get him in here in just 1 second. But, of course, we got to talk about our friends. Man, we didn't get a chance to do this last week, Ryan, and I apologize sincerely to our guys at Greeny Sports Cards. They are the largest producer of sports card shows, and they have a sold-out show coming up December 28th. Let me get you the area for that, because I just saw this come up on Facebook today, which is, I'm always looking. I'm always trying to over-deliver for our partners here, Ryan. And it is the Broadview Heights show that is already sold out. There's going to be plenty of deals going down 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. Woodside Event Center at St. Michael's in Broadview Heights. You can get more information. Call 330-486-5519 or email cardshows@greenysportscards.com. Go to greenysportscards.com for all that information. We welcome in our guest at this time as we continue to talk Guardians and a big trade last night. I know that this guy had a very realistic approach to this and knows more about the game and will forget more about the game than I will ever know, from John Boy Media and NFL Network. Cleveland native Chris Rose back on the program. Chris, APJ says he's sorry he couldn't make it here tonight. He had to babysit some of his nephews, but appreciate you taking some time to join Ryan and myself tonight.
Yeah, I've been down that road. I've been an uncle since I was 14. My sister was a senior in high school when I was born. So I understand that. That's much more important than listening to whatever we're talking about.
Well, we are talking about the trade yesterday of Andres Gimenez to Toronto. Spencer Horwitz comes back, and they send him off to Pittsburgh. And the big name coming back in that deal out of those 3 pitchers from the Pittsburgh organization, Luis Ortiz. Mm-hmm. Chris, I know that you even, you had a couple reaction videos last night on this. For the fans that, I will admit I was outraged last night. I have become more realistic, but there's still some frustrations around it. Fans like me, how can you explain what this team is doing and what we can expect from maybe more from this offseason?
Well, I mean, I get the frustration. In a very short time, Andres Gimenez became a handful of players that has really endeared himself to our community, right? I mean, it's pretty simple. The way he plays defense, it's like the right side of version of an Omar Vizquel. I mean, that's how good he was at second base. I was on a Toronto radio station earlier today, and I kind of compared him to when they traded for Robbie Alomar over 3.5 decades ago. And I said he's that good, and he might end up being the shortstop, depending on what happens with Bo Bichette down the line. I tend to look at things like this, guys. I'm not going to scream at the top of my lungs and say, Paul Dolan's got to sell the team.
Right.
What does that do? I mean, it doesn't do anything. And I heard you guys talking before I was on. At the end of the day, where do you want to see them spend? Do you want to see them become a top 10 spending team? Because I don't think that's realistic. Top 15, I don't think they're going to be there yet. The reality is that since 2000, I believe there have been 3 teams that have won the World Series with a payroll in the bottom half of Major League Baseball. There's been a lot more that have made it to the World Series, but haven't won it. So it's an uphill battle when you are a bottom half payroll team, that's the way it goes. When you're a team like the Cleveland Guardians, it's even a thinner needle that you have to thread. Because coming down the road were 3 years of $23.5 million being owed to Andres Gimenez. And on this team, you can't have a 632 OPS and get paid $23.5 million per year. You just can't do it. It's not going to be possible. Then it'll be Jose Ramirez, Andres Gimenez, and a bunch of guys on rookie contracts. Now, if you want to sit here and complain that the money saved from this deal, that Paul Dolan will not reinvest it in the team, if that comes to fruition and he doesn't make any more moves that help this squad, then it's a real problem. But if he does take that money and reinvests it in other areas, then I can live with this.
Chris, is it enough if it's reinvested in just the extensions of Stephen Kwan and Tanner Bybee?
Not at this point. No, that's not good enough. That would be a tough sell to the Cleveland fan base. Look, I also heard you saying, well, maybe we can do this next year. Maybe, he makes 10.5 this year, and before he makes 15.5, you could trade Andres Gimenez. If he had another year similar to the one he had this year, where he was a bottom 5 offensive player in terms of everyday ball players of an OPS level, he would have been virtually untradeable. Or what you would have had to do was do one of two things. Either throw in some money, which Cleveland does not like to do in deals, or settle for a lesser prospect package, which I know Cleveland doesn't like to do. So this was a preemptive strike, and the organization probably sees Andres Gimenez as not being able to get anywhere close to the 22 season, and maybe not as close to the 23 season, which is probably the area offensively where you could have lived with because he's that good defensively. I mean, heck, he did nothing at the plate this year, and he had a 4 WAR. That's incredible. That shows you how good he was defensively. But this is a team that does not hit enough in the playoffs. It needs much more than just run prevention and a damn good bullpen. It needs more starting arms to be able to hold off the likes of Detroit and Kansas City, which aren't coming. They're already here. So how do you do that? You put some runs on the scoreboard, and this offense is going to have to get better. And that means that I do believe that Juan Brito is going to get the first crack at second base. And it wouldn't surprise me if they try and make another move to get another starting pitcher and perhaps an outfielder.
He answered my question there. Yeah, he answered my question. I was going to ask who he foresaw would be the starter.
So as we kind of look at this, I mean, Nick Salem was also part of the deal. We can't forget about that. I know he's kind of just a mid-tier reliever, but part of one of the best bullpens, if not the best bullpen in 2023 for the Cleveland Guardians. But now moving forward, do you actually think that they can get a deal done for a starting pitcher, for an outfielder? And what happens if, the rumors of Josh Naylor, and not just Josh Naylor, but Lane Thomas both go? Like, are we just replacing one problem with another?
Well, I think it's going to be hard to trade Josh Naylor. I have to be honest with you. There's 3 huge free agent bats out there from the right side that are very interesting. Christian Walker is a 2-way player. He's a 30-homer guy. I know he's 34, but still, he can mash, and he's a good athlete. Pete Alonso, say whatever you want about that he had a down year. The guy still hit, I think, 34 homers. And I don't know how much of a market there is for him, but somebody's going to get him, even if it's a short-term deal, and he has to kind of replenish his value. Paul Goldschmidt, his best years are well behind him. He is a former league MVP, and maybe somebody is willing to take maybe a 1 or 2 year flyer on him. I think it's going to be a very small list of teams that would want a Josh Naylor. I do think that Pittsburgh was one of those teams. They've been looking for a first baseman, but now that they've got Spencer Horwitz after his amazing run in Cleveland of, I think, 87 minutes, I think he gets first shot at that one. Nathaniel Lowe of the Rangers might be on the market as well. So that's another left-handed stick who has been a proven commodity that, we might be fighting in trade space with Naylor. So I understand everybody's outrage. Because you trade Andres Jimenez, that doesn't mean you're giving up. And by the way, last year, where did the Guardians finish? What round did we play in? Anyone?
The ALCS.
The ALCS. When was the last time we did that?
It had been a while since we had done that.
2016.
2016.
Wow.
Okay? So, all those years that we spent all the money, where we brought in Edwin Encarnacion on what was at the time the richest deal in Cleveland history, and we kept adding, and we had a decent payroll, and we felt like we were a big boy at the table, it didn't work out. Now, it wasn't from a lack of effort. In 2018, whatever year it was that we won 22 straight games or whatever, we were amazing. We felt great about our situation. Maybe that was 27. I've kind of forgotten. All the years kind of run together.
Yeah,
but you understand my point, right?
Yeah.
You understand my point is that there's years we did spend money and it still didn't work out. So this is just it's the way the organization works. And all those people who are going to sit here today and say, damn it, I'm done with this team. Guess what? I'll see you in late March when the season starts because you're going to be back. Like, I'm not going to penalize the players whom I love rooting for. Stephen Vogt, who did a remarkable job in a first year as a major league manager, a coaching staff that works its ass off, a front office that is second to none because I'm upset with who owns the team. Like, think about that. That's the dumbest thing I've ever heard. You're entitled to that opinion, but I don't think it's smart. I mean, really, you're going to stop rooting for the team that you've loved because the owner's not spending money. Is that it? They did pretty well last year. They gave us some great memories. Amazing. David Fry's homer in Game 4 against the Tigers. I was sitting on my couch thinking, God dang it, we're gonna get out guardian by the Detroit Tigers. And then he saved our season and gave us a remarkable Game 5 where Lane Thomas hits a grand slam off of the best starter in the American League. That's a great memory. Were you thinking about what our payroll was at that time? Because I sure as hell wasn't.
No, but once the season ended, I was thinking, like, how can we improve a piece here, a piece there?
Well, it doesn't. Listen, guys, the season doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start December 12th. If the Guardians don't make any more moves, then I think it's okay to open fire and criticize. I really do. But, like, people think that the end of the winter meetings, that's where the baseball offseason culminates. No, there are a ton of good players still available. I still think they need a veteran arm. I think that's where some of that money's going to go. Go look at some of the guys who weren't nearly as good as Ortiz last year. And Frankie Montas was pathetic in Cincinnati. He was a little bit better when he got traded to Milwaukee. He got a 2-year, $34 million deal. And you know what the Mets hope to get out of him? 140 innings. 140 innings. If we get 140 innings out of Mr. Ortiz, which I think is probable, they're going to pay him 1/17 of what Frankie Montas just got. And they're probably going to be better innings. So that's how you have to think about it when you are a Cleveland Guardians fan. Do I wish that Uncle Stevie was our owner, bailing us out of problems by being able to throw $765 million at a guy and not even blinking? Of course. But that is not the reality.
Are there any expectations for
Chris, someone that they
Shane Bieber
did pay
year?
this offseason?
Sorry, guys. What?
Sorry. Are there any expectations for Shane Bieber to come back this year on a 1-year deal? Obviously, it's a prove-it deal, but come back and contribute to this team?
Yeah. I mean,
yeah.
They, of course. This worked out, I think, about as well as it could have from Cleveland's standpoint. I think he will be like a pickup at the All-Star break. That's what I would presume. Okay. I haven't talked to Shane about his surgery. All I've said along the way is just shot him a few texts. Hope you're doing well. Hope you're feeling great. Good luck with the baby. Things like that. Right. I haven't gotten into, hey, when are you coming back to pitch? Like that's right. There will be plenty of time to answer those questions. But I do think that he will be.
Hoynesy did that today. Hoynesy did that today.
Yeah, did he?
Hoynesy did that today. Yeah.
Good. The one person who covers baseball in the city of Cleveland did it. That away. Way to go, gang. Represent. So, yeah, I think he'll be back, and I think he will contribute. And it's a great deal for him because if he lights it up the last few months, I mean, for goodness sakes, Alex Cobb made 3 starts and got $15 million as a 37-year-old. Like, that's why the trade went down yesterday, guys. You just have to, you kind of have to look a little broader scope in terms of what is happening in the baseball landscape. What is the price of starting pitching? I'm not talking about 1s and 2s. I'm talking about guys who are just innings eaters. That's what they want out of Alex Cobb, who is an awesome dude and certainly can be serviceable. But did you think he was going to get $15 million? No.
Nope, not that age.
So that's what you have to do. That's why you constantly have to be replenishing your pitching through what are really tough trades.
Last baseball question for you.
Mm-hmm.
Stephen Vogt, first-year manager, takes the team to the ALCS, and it seems like he learned along the way. How much better can Stephen Vogt get as a manager in the majors?
Well, he's got a lot of it down, which is pretty amazing. And, I've been friends with Stephen for a long time. He's an awesome dude. And when he told me that he was up for the job, I was like, come on, man. Really? Like, you're going to have a chance to perhaps manage my favorite baseball team? He's like, I think it's happening. I was like, oh, this is incredible. Because I knew he had the media side down. And people kind of say, oh, what's the big deal? It's a bigger deal than you think. Twice a day, the manager's got to sit there and answer these ridiculous questions that everybody asks, and it can be tedious. I mean, you're talking about several hundred press conferences a year. Think about that. Wow. NFL coaches, they do it every day at training camp. And then once the season starts, they do it, 2 days during the week and then after the game on Sunday. And that's pretty much it. Baseball managers, it is twice a day, every day. So he's got that. Check that box. He's got the locker room, which is the biggest one. Guys played against him. Guys know who he is. He was an all-star twice. He was also the 25th man on a roster. It took him 7 years to get to the big leagues. He has played on the biggest stages. He's won a World Series. He has been every guy in that locker room at some point. He's never talking down to anybody because he has been at the bottom. And he can speak the same language as the guys who are at the top of their game, too, because he's been there. The strategy, listen, I think managers are a lot like offensive coordinators. You can't stand them, like when it comes to strategy. Why are you doing this? And why did we pitch to Giancarlo? I was asking the same question, and I'll have time. Hopefully, I'll ask the same thing, when I see him next, because I'd like to know. But at the beginning of the year, did any of us think that we were going to be playing in Game 5 of the ALCS? Because I sure as hell didn't. I don't know about you guys. I thought we were going to win between 76 and 81 games. And they gave us an amazing, amazing year. And I do think that he can get better. And I know that, more importantly, I know that he thinks he can get better.
Chris, before we let you go, got to ask you, of course, about the team that tends to rule the conversation here in town. Mm-hmm. But we'll just save it for one question. Browns are out of it. They're still playing for Kevin Stefanski. In terms of front office and coaches, is there any changes you want to see that's in your head right now that you want to see for this team going into 2025?
Well, I'll start with this. I don't think you change your head coach. I mean, I know that he hasn't had a good year, but I think that the organization has had a disastrous season, and I can't exactly pinpoint it outside of the quarterback play early, which obviously has had some sort of carryover effect. Andrew Berry, his draft picks have got to start hitting. He's got to.
Yeah.
When they then didn't have first rounders in 3 consecutive years, it puts a lot of pressure on certain guys hitting. JOK has hit. Greg Newsome has been okay at best. Cedric Tillman has shown flashes. But Anthony Schwartz, long gone, never did a thing. Tommy Togiai, a 4th-round pick. Now, we might laugh, but he was a 4th-round pick. Those are the guys who can help your team stay exactly where it needs to be, particularly when you go through all these injuries that some teams suffer. Siaki Ika, a 3rd-round pick. Couldn't get on the field. Gone. Those are tough. Those are tough to swallow when you don't have those high-end picks in your back pocket to leave a lasting impression for fans. But with that being said, I would not make a change there, because then you are dealing with a general manager who's having a head coach forced on him, and I just don't think that that's right. I do think that GMs and head coaches can have bad years just like players have bad years. I really believe it. And I think that's what has transpired here. They also have gotten us to the playoffs twice, which is something we haven't seen from a regime since Marty Schottenheimer was in charge when I was a kid in Cleveland. So I just think you try and regroup. You have to figure out the quarterback situation in the worst way possible and take a deep breath and say 2024 stunk and go from there.
Well, Chris Rose, John Boy Media, NFL Network, Cleveland native, and friend of the program. Now he's been on multiple times on this show. The last time I was telling you I was having a kid, getting the house, and all that kind of stuff.
There you go.
Things have settled down. So, we're just riding with the one right now and making it through, Chris. And we appreciate you taking some time tonight to join us.
It's my pleasure. Is that a Santa cape behind you? What's going on?
It's just a blanket. Just a
blanket.
Just a Christmas kind of blanket to kind of give that kind of feel.
How cold is it in my hometown right now?
Oh, it's supposed to get down in the teens to single digits tonight. Yeah.
Okay. Lovely.
It's snowing outside my window right now. So
it's snowing?
Yeah.
Okay.
I heard a plow truck come through just a little bit ago. So yeah, probably snowing outside too.
I won't tell you what it was. I won't tell you what it was out here.
I appreciate that, Chris. Chris Rose, thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks, guys. Have a good day and a happy holiday.
Absolutely. You and your family as well. A happy new year as well. That is Chris Rose of John Boy Media and NFL Network. Again, Cleveland native, always willing to tell it like it is. And did he put me back in perspective a little bit? Yes, but there's still issues that I have. And I think he was saying, it's okay to be frustrated, but it's the people that are just basically I'm all out, fire the, sell the team, Paul Dolan and all that. That type of stuff that's where the unrealistic element comes in. And that's where someone that's frustrated about the Browns, that's where it's right to say that person is just venting onto another team. I know that this team can win, and I know that this team will continue to have success and excellence. I'm just pushing for more. That's all. And I'm pushing right now instead of saving this conversation for February and early March when some of these free agents, as we've seen in baseball recently, Ryan, free agents signing late into the offseason and even into spring training a little bit. I don't want to be pushing this conversation then. I want to push it now so that when we do see other moves come in, I'm not going to say that we're the reason why it happened, but we can have better and even more realistic conversations at those times because look, we've been pushing it. They're pushing it in the front office like that. We can know at the same time that we're saying it, they're saying it to each other in the front office. That's basically what I'm saying. We need to push the conversation now and not wait until the second half of the offseason.
Well, I think fans just see that glaring hole. Yeah, I just think that fans see that glaring hole at second base right now, and it's obviously we now don't have a fan favorite guy, and it's a little concerning. Chris is right; it's way early, but all we can see is what's presented to us at the time. So hopefully they fix it like he said, and if they don't, I agree, it would be a travesty to this team. So.
Greeny Sports Cards, our sponsor of the show, our partner here with Voice of the Land. We thank them so much. They're always live every Tuesday, 7 o'clock. I shared it last night on Twitter, and then I shared the Facebook version of it this morning. Look, it's yes, it's a lot of sports cards, it's sports memorabilia. They've done pop culture stuff. They do the biggest card shows. The one that we went to, that Jay and I got to go to in Independence, was just fantastic. They had and even at that card show, they had discussion forums up on the big stage, and the person that was supposed to host the baseball one, wasn't able to make it. I ended up on stage doing a whole baseball conversation with Curtis and Curtis Danberg and talking about the upcoming season. I don't really want to relive that day because, we were talking Shane Bieber, and then that very same day, 30 minutes later, before we did this show live from the card show, news came out, but yeah, just reach out to them. GreenieSportsCards.com. I'm telling you, these guys do it, and they do it right. And there's a lot of there's a lot of intrigue into sports cards still. And if you want someone to know what they're doing and get you to the right place, right events, Greenie Sports Cards, they are those people. We appreciate talking with them, and they're always sharing our stuff. And we can only do as much as we can to give back. And we thank everybody over at Greenie Sports Cards. I know, Ryan, we wanted to get into some of the other stuff. Browns 3-10. I don't really care that Taylor Swift's going to be there this weekend. If she is,
Yeah.
That does nothing. I'm apathetic to all of it. If they win, great. You prove that you can beat the defending Super Bowl champions who have barely lost this year, winning single-digit games, single-score games all year long. And yet, if they do win, Ryan, I almost feel like a slap in the face.
Yep. I don't want them to win.
No,
for selfish reasons.
Because if you beat
we're out of it. We're out of contention.
If you beat the defending Super Bowl champions, why? Where was this in other games? So I appreciate them still giving effort and playing for Coach, and I think that's why Coach Stefanski will still be around next year. I understand what Chris is saying, Ryan, in terms of the GM, and I've kind of said that. The person I want to see go is Paul DePodesta. What does this guy do? And how much power does he have? And if he has a lot of power, get that out so that we can, turn a corner.
No, he's got dirt on somebody. That's what he's got.
Yeah.
It's the only logical reason. So
go back to baseball, Paul. Go back to baseball, please.
Not in Cleveland, though.
No, not here. We got plenty of good guys.
He'd be in San Diego anyway. He wouldn't come to Cleveland.
You'd see him even less if it was for the baseball team than the football team.
Right.
The other stuff that's going on. The Cavs are on a long break until Friday because they didn't make the NBA Cup. They're still playing well. Evan Mobley, it doesn't sound like his ankle injury is too severe.
Right.
And they're facing below 500 teams. So I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see Mobley the next 2 or 3 games. I'm not going to freak out, though, if we don't see him, because I've heard from Brian Windhurst, an ESPN insider that knows the league, is hearing all these injury reports, Ryan. Look, if Mobley doesn't play against these below 500 teams, I think that this team should still beat them and add to their win total right now over the stretch where they can actually practice. I think that's the best part about this break, is they can actually practice again when they couldn't to start the year and playing more games than anybody else.
Yeah. The only thing that concerns me with Mobley not possibly playing the next few games, he hit 5 3-pointers in the first quarter just 2 games ago. He's finally getting hot. He's finally hitting those threes. I would like to see a little consistency, and now all of a sudden he's hurt. So I'm a little nervous to see how he comes back and how he responds, because he was on fire, and I hope he continues.
Yeah, he was starting to find that rhythm of, find the rhythm from the work he put in. You saw his videos in the offseason of him shooting a bunch of threes and trying to add that to his game, because we can all say that he has to add that to his game, but it takes the player to take onus, take responsibility, accountability. There's a lot of accountability with the Guardians. That's great. There's a lot of effort and energy and effort with the Guardians. Same with the Cavs. That's why these conversations happen. That's why frustration happens, because we care. So yeah, him losing that rhythm, you hope he can kind of get that back. Maybe it takes a couple more games once he does come back. We'll see what the injury report looks like. Max Strus is coming back, though, according to Shams Charania, now with ESPN, filling in for Adrian Wojnarowski, who I believe is dealing with some health issues, even though he is the president of basketball operations at his alma mater. But we wish the best to Woj and all those Woj bombs. Shams now takes over and says Max Strus is coming back. Well, be good to see him get back into a rhythm as well and have that another shooter you can go to and just make this team more dangerous.
For sure.
The last thing to touch on probably tonight, Ryan, I mean, we can preview the playoff game next week. We can definitely do that with Ohio State. The OHIO bill. Did you see this?
I did. It's dumb, but it's funny. I don't think anything's going to come to fruition, but it's hilarious to think that somebody planting a flag could be a felony. That's insane.
Well, and only at Ohio Stadium, I heard some people like making the joke, like, "Hey, you can't go to Kent State, you can't go to Akron, you can't go to these fields, and you can plant the flag all you want, but not at Ohio Stadium." The worst part about it, Ryan, is that it like a team that is being questioned and were booed off their own field and lost a fourth time in the road to that team up north, and it stings and it hurts because that's the last memory we have. You cost yourself a chance to go play in the Big Ten championship game. Now everybody thinks you're just going to fall flat on your face at home out of the playoffs when you have a championship level team. The worst part is more of that negativity gets pushed onto that team because this guy, this politician, decided to do this. Ohio State had nothing to do with it.
Right.
And if you listen to a guy like Bo Bishop who covers stuff in Columbus and then does Cleveland Browns daily and Browns stuff up here in Cleveland, he even said today, he said Ohio State is not pushing for this. They're not connected with it. It's just this guy just trying to make a name for himself. And guess what? We're talking about. I'm not going to say his name. I know what his name is. I'm not going to say his name because I'm not going to give him that credibility.
Right. The only thing I could see where it would have any backing is it like inciting a riot or something like that, but that's still pretty loose. It's just subjective to a reaction, so it's all for publicity. It's dumb satire.
But hey, guess what? College football gets a coaching legend next year.
Yeah,
Coach
crazy.
Belichick goes to North Carolina. I'm not going to make the same jokes that other people are making. I'm not going to do it. That's not this type of show. We got plenty of programs, great programs on Big Play that will make those jokes for you and for me. You go find those, go to bigplay.com and all of our shows are right there. Ryan, anything you need to get off your chest before we close this one out tonight?
No, I don't know. I kind of disagreed with Chris about the Browns. I'm ready for Kevin to go. I'm ready for Andrew to go. I'm ready for a clean slate. I don't trust Andrew Berry making any picks. He didn't even bring up Jed Wills, who's making a business decision still, and his decision is that he sucks at football.
I know, and I'm sure we can bring Chris back on when it's if we want like a big time football conversation because tonight was more about baseball, and he knows a lot about both angles, and we knew we would get some realism there, and it definitely helps those like myself that were maybe still holding on to maybe more frustration than I should. Excuse me. But I think the one thing we can all agree with Chris on, though, is if you're going to make a change, it's got to be both or none.
See, the thing that I found interesting with that is forcing head coaches. Andrew Berry was forced Kevin Stefanski. Kevin Stefanski was hired first. So it would just – they did it last time. They could do it again.
Right, but I think the only difference there is both were trying to establish themselves in those positions. They were working together to do that, and I think that they were aligned, and they're still kind of aligned in the way that they want. The issue with bringing in a GM while Kevin's already here and has a way to do things, now this GM has a different mindset, and we're just clashing the whole time. We've seen that here in Cleveland. We've seen it all here in Cleveland. And whatever hasn't happened yet in the NFL, it's going to happen here in Cleveland. Like that's the place to get the first one out of the way. I think forcing that marriage now with Kevin Stefanski established and a GM coming in to a different organization with a different philosophy, I think that's where a bigger issue is than when they brought these two guys together at the start of both of them taking on a new job and the highest job that they were looking to get in their line of profession. I think, and that's not to disagree with you. That's just how
that makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, I'm in draft mode. I'm ready for the draft to start. I hope the games are entertaining and fun. I hope we do win if Jameis can allow it and don't throw interceptions late. But if we don't, I'm not upset because I want to lose every game and get a better pick. So I'm just doing mock drafts every day and just waiting until April. So
Cleveland's been waiting for mock draft season because we haven't had a first round pick in 3 years.
right.
And now we get one, and now mock drafts have started for a long time, and that's how Cleveland goes. And I'm sure there's going to be big time draft parties as well come April. But there's still some left of 2024. We thank our partners with Greeny Sports Cards. We will be back next week. Somehow, some sort of combination of all three of us will do a show next week, and then we'll figure out the holidays. After that, maybe take a holiday break for a couple weeks and then come back 2025 even stronger. But there is a show next week. Plenty to still talk about. We appreciate everyone tuning in tonight. This has been the Voice of Land on the Big Play Network. And again, thank you to Greeny Sports Cards, for Ryan Mosser, for Peter Tellep producing in the background. I am Kevin Arnold. Don't let anyone ever tell you it's just a game. We truly love you all 3,000. Don't talk about it. Be about it.
Bring on the draft. I'm ready.
And live life. All gas, no brakes. We'll see you next time. Next week, 8 p.m. on Wednesday on the Voice of the Land on the Big Play and Be On Air podcast networks.